happy that each of you were able to join us this morning to celebrate my mom's life. Rochelle Cataman Eulogy was born September 18, 1938 in Saint-Adolphe, Manitoba. She was the youngest child of Theodore and Angeline Aubin, and the younger sister of Maurice, Thérèse, and Léonce. Things were much different then than they are today. Our mom was raised in a rural farm, and so during the school year she attended an all-girl Catholic school or boarding school, and would only return home back on special occasions like Christmas and Easter. Mom often spoke of how her big sister Thérèse was her saving grace at that time. Like only a big sister could do, Thérèse took our mom under her wing, because she was about 5 years older, and because of this, the two sisters shared a tight bond throughout their lives. Her time in boarding schools and on the farm really shaped the person our mom became. She was an extremely hard worker, had the highest respect for authority, and was your classic rule follower from an early age. Her entire life, she set an extremely high standard for herself and those she surrounded herself with. At times, leaving her loved ones feeling like it was hard to measure up. But our mom did pass on the trait of being a hard worker and also sacrificing for your family. She passed this on to each of us boys. In the fall of 1956, she left the farm to follow her dreams of studying nursing. She spent the next 3 years in residence at St. Boniface Hospital in Winnipeg, Manitoba, with 98 other Proby classmates. When she graduated, she worked in the pediatric wing because she always loved children. Our mom always spoke of her years at college with great affection. During that time, she made many lifelong friends, which she maintained despite dozens of moves over the years. Friends like Jackie, Helen, Alice, and Lillian, to name a few. In recent emails since our mom's passing, some of these friends described her as so cute, always smiling, always friendly to all. She laughed readily, worked hard, and was always true to her faith and beliefs. Many of these girls lived in an apartment together at 534 Richshot Street in Winnipeg. These girls were a popular bunch to the point that they received their first Christmas card from the boys at Duffy's Taxi to the girls at 534. You see, no one had a car back then, couldn't afford one, so the girls would often share a cab to the hospital when they had those cold winter Winnipeg mornings. Our mom was the first in the apartment to buy a record player, and then the first to later buy a car. Despite being quiet and shy at times, she was always comfortable in her own skin and willing to try new things. In the fall of 1961, on a blind date, she met a tall, lanky, free-spirited Dutchman by the name of Concaboo. I'm sure what attracted our mother to our father was his love for adventure, his optimism, his faith, his sense of humor, and of course, his rugged good looks. We all got that from him too. When our dad recounts the night he first met our mom, he'll often conclude the story by saying, "And the rest, they say, is history." In the spring of 1962, our parents got engaged. At the time, our dad's parents, who lived in Holland and never met my mom, knew little about her, and they wanted to ensure that their son was marrying a godly woman. So our Opa wrote a letter to our mom's priest in Winnipeg, who wrote back with a glowing review. This brought much joy to our Oma and Opa. In the spring of 1963, in a service officiated by Father Léonce Aubin, who is here with us today, our mom and dad were married. Dad enjoys sharing the story of their honeymoon night when they had to take a taxi halfway across Winnipeg just to transfer to another taxi to go halfway in the other direction just to get to their car that he had hid the night before their wedding. All this had to be done, as in those days the wedding party and friends of the bride and groom would do everything they could to harass the newlywed couple on the night of their honeymoon. Needless to say, they never caught up with our mom and dad. A few weeks later, they found themselves pregnant. Or as my dad would say, she was pregnant and I was expecting. Then 9 months after that, on the eve of the Beatles' first appearance on U.S. television, Ed Sullivan Show, they had their first son, Paul Bryan. soon followed by their second son, Dennis James, then Peter Allen, and finally, Michael John. That's right, 4 boys in 46 months. Not to mention 4 moves, which included destinations like Castlegarden, BC, Outlook, Saskatchewan, and Burlington, Ontario during that time. Ashley and Kate, if you want to follow in your Oma's footsteps, you're going to have a very busy couple of years ahead of you. My dad would often joke that he could get my mom pregnant from calling her at the payphone at the airport. The other standing joke is that you never dared write the caboose home address in ink in your address book. I think they moved over a dozen times. In 1966 began the first of many trips of Holland visiting Canada and Canada visiting Holland. Oma and Opa flew from Amsterdam to Vancouver, and they had to book their flight 6 months in advance. By the time of their flight, my parents had already relocated to Ontario. So Oma and Opa took advantage of Greyhound's 99-day pass for $99 promotion, and over the next 6 weeks, they saw many parts of our great country, including a stop in Winnipeg to visit with the Aubin family. Getting to finally meet our mom was a real treat for Opa and Oma, and vice versa. Even though there was a bit of a language barrier, there was a love and admiration for each other that always resulted in good times and plenty of laughs. Over the next few years, many of my dad's siblings came to Canada for a visit. Our Aunt Joanne came for 6 months in 1967, and to this day she will comment on how my parents made her feel so welcome, that their house was her house, and that our mom's devotion and willingness to set her needs aside for her children, while our dad was often on the road, left a lasting impression on her. In 1970, it was Canada's turn to visit Holland, and our mom, dad, and boys got to meet the rest of the Caboot family on a great European vacation. We were just looking at some of the pictures yesterday. In 1974, our dad's youngest brother, Franz, aka Fonzie, who's here as well, and his young bride, Connie, who is also here, immigrated to Canada. They recounted that they were so warmly welcomed by our parents, and that our parents generously offered for them to come live with them as long as it needs. They were newlywed greenhorn immigrants, and they at that time learned an awful lot about life in Canada, the English language, and above all, they learned how to make a person feel welcome in their home. Connie learned so much from Rochelle. Things like barbecuing, making toffee from raw maple syrup, cooking turkey and roasts. Mom always made the best roasts. But also matters of raising the children. Connie says Rochelle was happy and never complained about anything and was always focused on serving others. One of the funnier moments was when our Uncle Fonzie, who was working on his English language at the time, just before bed went to my mom and said, "It is now time for me to go and enjoy my wife in bed." Mom began to laugh so hard she almost woke up all the kids. Of course, what my Uncle Fonzie meant to say, it was now time for him to go and join his wife in bed. Later in 1974, my Aunt Joanne and Betty planned a surprise visit to Canada. Upon their arrival, my parents had already planned a trip to Winnipeg to visit with the Aubin side of the family. And so, of course, they invited Aunt Joanne and Betty to join them. During a recent visit, Aunt Joanne recounted that she had so much respect and thankfulness for my mom as she put her needs aside and provided them with an opportunity to meet with the Aubin family and experiencing camping in Canada. These are her words. "We had a great time with them, but I'm sure it was not the most restful vacation for Rochelle, organizing and camping for 4 young boys, 2 sister-in-laws, and a husband. That's a trip to Canada that we will never forget." Some of the best times of life in the Caboot family were spent on Camp 25. My dad purchased a lot and built an A-frame camp. Whether it was family visiting from Europe or Manitoba, or many of our friends in Geraldton like the Tenobies, everyone felt welcome at Camp 25. Hours upon hours of swimming, sailing, and boating were spent on Lake Kanagamisses during those years. In the fall of 1968, there was a blip on the Catholic rhythm method, and our parents received the shock of their life. When they found out that, again, Mom was pregnant and Dad was expecting. They both took the news in stride, as they were so hopeful that they would finally get that elusive baby girl that they had always wanted. Mom began knitting pink outfits and picked the name Susan. Then, on May 15, 1979, they had a boy named Sue, a.k.a. David Mark. That's me. My brothers often joked that they broke trail, and by the time I got there, there was a 4-lane highway. All jokes aside, I don't think I could have been born into a better family. One of my favorite times of year as a child was March break, when Mom and I would go visit Winnipeg. We stayed at my Tante Therese's apartment and would visit my Uncle Leonce's church and my Uncle Morris and Tante Janine's farm. On one of those visits, our grand-mère, whose grandma, Grand-mère Aubin, who also had dementia and Alzheimer's, did not recognize our mom, which was very hard for her. After the funeral, I remember our mom coming to me and saying, "If I ever get sick like that, please come and visit me, no matter what I say or what I do. I will always love you, even if I can't show it." Around that same time, as the older boys were leaving the nest, came moves from Geraldton to Thunder Bay to Marathon, followed by our parents gaining daughters via marriage, one at a time, in Kim, Jermaine, Holly, Paula, and Liz. Although our mom and dad were never able to conceive a girl, the next generation has not had that same issue. Oma had 8 granddaughters, 3 grandsons, 1 great-granddaughter, 1 great-grandson, and 2 more on the way. Oma and Opa loved Alex, Kate, Kayla, Christopher, Ashley, Justine, Sydney, Anna, Megan, Monica, Jonathan, Jacob, and Noah. Each of these grandchildren were Oma's pride and joy, and she loved bragging about them in the yearly Kaboot Christmas letter. One of the hardest times in our mother's life was the passing of her sister Therese. As a loving sister and a nurse, our mom did everything she could to support her sister throughout the debilitating disease of Parkinson's. These 2 gals shared with each other a love for their faith, music, panoramic views, sunsets, color, and art throughout their lives. As many of you know, our mom's favorite thing to do in her final year was coloring. I think it brought her solace and made her feel reunited with her big sister, Therese. Our mom's final working years were primarily spent as a public health nurse on the Ojibwe communities of Heron Bay and Moberg. During that time, she gained the admiration and respect of so many within those communities. Many nurses had come and gone, but our mom's resilient nature and kind-heartedness made her excel and finish strong in this role. I often think God has a sense of humor by placing a woman whose mantra is, "If you're not 10 minutes early, you're not on time," within communities where most of the residents did not have a watch or believe in time. After her retirement, Oma and Opa began to travel to Texas for the winter. They had many good times with great friends at the Shady Acre Trailer Park in Texas. Our mom loved taking part in the sing-songs, as well as playing bingo and Scrabble. Mom's love of children was also displayed again at the Children Haven Orphanage in Mexico, which is right on the border of Texas and Mexico. She and my dad would spend countless hours working at the orphanage and also cutting the coupons off of Campbell soup cans so the orphanage could get a new van. I think they had to have 1,000 coupons to get a van, and they worked towards that. Early in their retirement, Mom's disease began with a little bit of repetitious phrases that over the years turned to the forgetfulness of current events, that over the years turned to the forgetfulness of many of the people she cherished and loved the most. The thing she never forgot to do was to smile, laugh, and love. On behalf of our family, I thank you for loving and caring for our mom through sickness and health, and showing us a great example of sacrificial love. I think two of the best days of our mom's life came in 2013, when she was able to celebrate not one, but two 50th wedding anniversary parties. One was in Canada, which included a scenic boat tour of Georgian Bay, a roast dinner, and a family picture, which she always loved. The second party was, of course, in Holland, in which our mom and dad were toured around Vlaardingen, our dad's hometown, in a convertible, and an activity where 60 of our closest Dutch relatives all got a chance to jam together with 60 sets of bongo drums. Needless to say, everyone had a good time. Those Dutchies always knew how to throw a party. And in fact, those same Dutchies are holding a celebration of life right now, exact same time, across the pond as we speak. Over the past 10 years, Mom's life has taught us one final lesson. Do not take for granted your health or your life. Just because you have it today does not assure it will be there tomorrow. While there is still breath in your lungs, in our lungs, and rational thought in our brain, let us love, serve, and forgive one another the way we would want to have done to ourselves. One of the characteristics I always admired about our mom was her loyalty and kindness that she showed to her friends, her family, her patients, and even complete strangers. Even in her last months in the long-term care facility in Aurelia, she would often be found pushing the wheelchair of those of her fellow residents. God gave our mom the gift of service, a gift she shared with others her entire life. Her life exemplified Proverbs 3:3, which reads, "Never tire of being loyal or kind. Hold these virtues tightly. Write them deep within your heart." On Christmas Eve, 10 minutes before midnight, you know Mom, she wouldn't want to be late. She went home to be with her Lord and Savior, where she fully realized the promise of John 3:16, which says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him will not perish, but have eternal life." The last few months, as Mom was losing all sense of time, as family members visited, the visits would often conclude by a kiss on the cheek and the words, "See you soon." So Mom, on behalf of our family and friends, that you loved, served, and cared for, we send up one final kiss, and we say, "See you soon." Thank you.